So it was Ago. Yeah. Ahmed. Yeah. Ago. I would say Ago.
Yeah.
Most students would say Ahmed.
I was at a school last week, and somebody said, focus. All the kids, it was like 300 kids. And they said something focus. And I was like, oh my God, it's genius. So the lady that was in the
Okay, welcome everyone. Greetings and assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you very much for joining us today for a fireside chat at IIIT on Leading While Muslim, the experiences of American Muslim principles after 9/11, written by Dr. W. Almontaser and with Secretary of Education Atif Qarni, closing Q&A. And so I would like to welcome one of the founders of IIIT, Dr. Hisham Al-Talib, to give you some welcoming remarks, but first I'd like to tell you a little bit about him. So Dr. Hisham is a founder and president of IIIT, the International Institute of Islamic Law, and author of numerous books. He was born in Mosul, Iraq in 1940 and grew up in a religious Muslim family. While a student in the United Kingdom, Dr. Al-Talib collaborated with other Muslim students to form the Muslim Student Society of the United Kingdom and Northern Ireland. After immigrating to the United States with his wife, where he pursued graduate studies in electrical engineering at the University of Cincinnati, Ohio, and Purdue University in Lafayette, Indiana, he obtained his MS and PhD in electrical engineering. Throughout his career as an electrical engineer, Dr. Al-Talib was active in Islamic work in North America and continues to work in this field today. In Ohio and Indiana, while studying and working in engineering, Dr. Al-Talib became the first full-time director of the training department of the Muslim Students Association of the United States and Canada, the MSA, from 1975 to 1977. Dr. Al-Talib was a founding member and director of the SAR Foundation from 1983 to 1995. He co-founded the International Institute of Islamic Thought in 1981 and is currently vice president of the Child Development Foundation. Without further ado, please welcome Dr. Hisham Al-Talib.
Assalamu alaikum. Welcome again to the IIIT. Some people call us Trouble IT. Well, I want to tell you our story. And it's a very long story. It will take only 5 hours to relate. Okay. As you know, there is a mother for everything. And our mother is the MSA of the United States and Canada, the Muslim Student Association of the United States and Canada, where it was founded by students, some of the founders of IIIT in 1963. And I joined actually in the US, this MSA in 1968, when I left Iraq to get my master's and PhD here in the United States in electrical engineering. Now, this organization was blessed with growth and many achievements and fast. So in the beginning of the 70s, actually in 1971, some of us from the executive committee of this MSA met in my house at Purdue University to discuss the future of this organization because it was going so well and so good. So they said, the question was, what is the future of the MSA, the students here, Muslim students, and the Muslim community in the United States? So they said, we have to have 4 necessary and sufficient conditions to exist and flourish and expand in this great country. Number 1, we have to be financially independent from any government. Number 2, we have to have some presence in the media so that we speak about ourselves, not others will speak about us. Number 3, because of the expansion, this rapid expansion, we must adopt the best state-of-the-art in the state-of-the-art in management and administration, which we have here in the United States. And number 3, we must have reformation and renewal of Islamic thought. But what we mean by that is not renewal of the scriptures, because those are constant, but renewal of the interpretation depending on time and the space. And while the first three can take 1 decade, 2 decades, 3 decades, the last one, renewal and reformation, is always work in action. It's always going and developing, and it will never end. Okay, so that is, we identify this. How do we do it? We said we don't know how to do it. So then there is a verse in the Quran that says, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Ask people of knowledge if you know not. So it took us like few years. In 1977, we convened about 30 scholars from all over the world in Lugano, Switzerland for 1 week, and we discussed this. We said, first of all, what is the problem of the Muslim nation now? And we identify it as one single thing, which is the blind imitation of, we have two camps in the Muslim world. One of them is the secular camp that was established in the early 20s by the colonialist powers, and the other camp is the traditional Orthodox Islamists. Now, both of them, they were trying to blindly imitate either our golden history of civilization or the West, Westernization. And both of them failed, because you cannot have a progress with just an imitation. You have to have original thinking and research into the sources, as well as in the time and the place that we live in. And then we came to I remember in our primary school in Mosul, Iraq, Nineveh, they used to tell us the three evils of any country is al-jahlu wal-faqru wal-marad, illiteracy, poverty, and disease. And how do you solve all those? Well, we solve it with one word. The first revealed word in the Quran was iqra, read. Read, read, read. Because if you know how, that says my 5 hours are over. So if you give me just a couple of minutes, can I go for 2 minutes? Okay. So whether it is poverty or disease, you can only cure them with knowledge, reading, education. Now, with education, we just don't mean reading the script. That's half of it. The other half is reading the universe and then combining, applying this to that and that to this, and then that's what we mean by this dual interpretation of the word Iqra. So then that is the solution. What to do? We adopted, in real estate they say location, location, and location. In publishing, they say consistency, consistency, and consistency. Now we say education, education, and education. The second education is K-12. The third one is the higher education. But one thing is missing, which is the most important, and that is parenting. The mothers that are the most important thing in this education, the first teachers and the most effective teachers. So that's where we are now. If you want to summarize IIIT, this is the one word: Iqra, read, and E plus E plus E. Wassalamu alaikum.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hisham. Now we will have Senator Chap Peterson, who will introduce Secretary Atif Qarni. Senator Chap Peterson grew up and lives in Fairfax City. He is a graduate of Fairfax High, Williams College, and the University of Virginia Law School. He's been in private practice since 1994. Senator Peterson began his political career serving on the Fairfax City Council from 1998 to 2002. He was a member of the Virginia House of Delegates from 2002 to 2006. Senator Peterson was first elected to the state Senate in 2007 and was re-elected in 2015. He's running again this year for re-election and does not have an opponent. Without further ado, please welcome Senator Peterson.
Thank you very much. Before I go a step further, I want to introduce two very special people. I'm an attorney in private practice. I own my own firm, and my paralegal, Sandra Lubano, is here. As you may know, we represent some of the clients here in the state, which is great to see that they're able. I also want to represent Senator Jennifer Boysko. This is her area. She's a fabulous addition to the state senate. She joined us a year and a half ago, a year ago.
No, in January.
In January, okay, well, 9 months ago or so, but she's a fabulous senator, and we'll see, but hopefully we'll be in the majority in a few weeks, and Jennifer and I will be in a position to make some great things happen. I also have to say one other thing. I tell people, like, being a senator is not my real job. My real job is I'm a lawyer, and then I'm also a dad. My son had a football game tonight. My wife's at the game, and if I look a little bit disconsolate, it's because they lost 43-12. So, anyways, that's how it goes. But enough about that. Let me talk about Atif Qarni a little bit, because he is the man of the moment. And I'm very honored to have Atif here. He's our Secretary of Education. And before I went and decided to give this speech, I did some in-depth research on him. Back in the old days, I would have gone to the public library and kind of gone through the Dewey Decimal System, but I went to Wikipedia. So everything I read on Wikipedia, I'm sure must be true, but I know that Atif, obviously, is the Secretary of Education, is originally from Karachi, Pakistan. Is that correct? I had not known that. And then grew up in Parkville, Maryland, before moving to Manassas. Served in the United States Marine Corps, rose to the rank of sergeant, and served in Operation Iraqi Freedom, so he's a veteran. And came back, obviously, having been honorably discharged, and started a career in education, was a public school teacher, taught at Belleville Middle School. Belleville Middle School. And in 2013, did an act which is not as courageous as joining the Marine Corps, but still pretty courageous. He ran for the House of Delegates and lost a very narrow race for the House of Delegates, but really he put his foot in the door in an area where Democrats had not been successful, and that's a seat that subsequently is now in Democratic hands. When Governor Ralph Northam was elected in 2017, one of the things he pledged, and I remember him saying this to me, was that he wanted to see a teacher be the Secretary of Education. So you had someone who's actually on the front lines of education that's going to be training up the next generation of leaders in Virginia. He chose Atif, and Atif has been a great choice. And I say that because we're here in Fairfax County, and look, I get it, we're Northern Virginia, multicultural, that's great. I went to Atif's Facebook page. It shows him out in Covington, Virginia, meeting students out there, which is the exact opposite. Okay, it's a very rural area without a lot of diversity, but it's a place that needs a lot of help. And Atif's been everywhere he needs to be in Virginia. He's representing everybody, whether or not they voted for us. And he's a great, great secretary. And without any further ado, Atif Qarni.
Thank you so much for that kind introduction, and thanks for keeping out all the troublemaking stuff. Trouble IT, and I'm a trouble artist. Is this thing on? I don't know. Mrs. Ramina, can you hear me okay? Okay, you can hear all right. Thank you so much for setting this up, Dr. Almontaser. Thank you so much for hosting us. Really appreciate it. So, are we going to do an introduction for Dr. Debbie? In a way, so am I supposed to just say stop at some point?
We can put it on pause for now.
Put it on pause, and then do the thing. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And then we'll start into.
Yeah, we're teachers, so we improvise very easily. Thank you. Perfect.
She has to introduce me, and then I will introduce her.
Yes. There you go. This is how this is gonna go. So.
Wikipedia turned out to be so right.
Yes.
For once.
And so shortly we will have Dr. Ilham Nasser introduce Dr. Almontaser. Dr. Ilham is the Director of Pedagogy and a Senior Researcher for the Ames Research Team at IIIT. She is also a former chair of the Peace Education Special Interest Group at the American Education Research Association and has spent over 25 years in teacher training and research in different educational settings in the United States, Africa, and the Middle East. Previously, she led the modernization of the curriculum for kindergarten in Iraq and the design and development of the first national curriculum for kindergarten in Palestine. Dr. Nasser has researched and published on education for forgiveness in the Arab world. Currently, she is the Dean of the School of Education at Virginia International University. And so now, Dr.
Yeah, it will be. Okay, it's my privilege to introduce Dr. Debbie Almontaser, and I would say Almontasera. Does anyone know what Almontaser means? The name Almontaser? Victorious. And just by chatting with her for a few minutes, I know that she has accomplished a lot, and your bio would really not represent all your work, as well as you described to me. So it's with pleasure that I introduce Dr. Debbie Almontaser. She's an internationally recognized award-winning educator. She's a speaker and authority on cross-cultural understanding. She is the author of Leading While Muslim, The Experiences of American Muslim Principles After 9/11. You see the book there. We're all going to compete to get a copy later on. She is an influential community leader and the founder and CEO of Bridging Cultures Group. Dr. Almontaser was the founding and former principal of the Khalil Gibran International Academy in Brooklyn, New York. 25-year veteran of the New York public school system. And this is how we know where you're Muntasira, if you lasted 25 years in New York. So that's a good testimony here. She taught special education, inclusion, trained teachers in literacy, and served as a multicultural specialist and diversity advisor. Currently, she's the board president of the Muslim Community Network. She frequently lectures, serves on panels, and facilitates teacher and public workshops on cultural diversity, on conflict resolution, and I guess some other than conflict resolution. And then Arab culture, Islam, Muslims in America, interfaith coalition building, youth leadership at schools, universities, libraries, museums, faith-based organizations, churches, synagogues, as well as national and international conferences. So please, let's all welcome Dr.
And before we begin our discussion, I just want to everyone to take note that please use the hashtags IIIT Fireside Chat and Leading All Muslim. They're projected up there. And you can tag IIIT on Instagram at IIIT_Insta, Twitter at IIIT Friends, and Facebook, our Facebook page. You can search for us, International Institute of Islamic Thought. And those who post the most will be eligible to win a free book at the end of the program.
Well, thank you, Sister Amina. Thank you so much, and definitely post this subject as Senator Peterson indicated. We do definitely check social media, so that's really critical. And you never know when your Facebook page or Twitter will be used as a resource. But Dr. Debbie Almontaser, it's a pleasure and honor to share the stage with you. And before we get started, I do want to thank the two senators for being education champions and supporting a robust education package this past year. We certainly, really appreciative of your leadership. And thank you, IIIT, for hosting, and thanks everyone for coming out tonight on a weeknight to listen to us talk. So really appreciate that. So what I was hoping to do is that I know that at the tail end we do want to open it up to the audience to ask questions, but I have 3 questions after listening to the podcast, reading about your work. Thank you for all the work and having the courage to really ask the hard questions in the interest of serving our young people. So really appreciate that. But I have 3 questions. 2 questions that I'll ask later are some things that we're doing in Virginia which are really relevant to your work. But the first one is that you did a case study in this book. I believe you focused on about 20 school leaders and about 14 who highly engaged in the case study. And I was intrigued by your work because, you have all different types of educators. You have classroom teachers, you have support staff, you have school division leaders. But a school principal, a school leader, is really the one who sets the tone and culture for the school setting. So I was really intrigued by that. So the case study, which was done and leading the school after September 11, being a Muslim. So let's talk about that. what would you like to tell the audience about the case study?
Sure. Well, first I want to start by thanking IIIT for inviting me. And of course, our Secretary of Education. Being here tonight, I was so excited when Amina told me that you actually accepted and we were able to make it. So I want to, people ask me how did I find out about IIIT, so I want to tell you the story because it's really funny. I learned about the organization through Twitter. Yes, Twitter. So I actually am on Twitter like everybody else in the world. And every day I actually get on my news feed all the different topics that I've subscribed to. And in my education feed, IIIT was there. And I was like, this is such an interesting organization. So I sent a direct message on Twitter. I'd love to know more about your organization. I just, published a book called Leading While Muslim. I'd love to come and share it with your community. And Ellen then directed my direct message to Amina.
So
There's Ellen. Thank you, Ellen, for connecting us. And so like a week or so later, I got the email from Amina, and I was like, oh, this is so interesting. And here we are today. So thank you, Amina. Thank you, Dr. Hisham, and the founders and people who work here for actually making this event possible. So what should I tell you about my book? Is I could go on and on and on about this topic, but this topic is really very important because there isn't enough data or actually research done on in public education on American Muslim school leaders, or for that matter, even teachers. So I'm actually the first to study American Muslim school leaders in public education. No one has studied this body of people within the American Muslim community. And for that, also the fact that there aren't teacher studies focusing on American Muslim teachers as well. So what intrigued me was actually my own personal experience as an American Muslim school leader who founded the first Arabic dual language public school, the Khalil Gibran International Academy, and made international headlines in 2007 when the school was actually announced. And because of the onslaught of Islamophobia that came from interest groups, particularly the Islamophobia industry, the mayor of the city of New York actually pushed me out of my position. And they gave me an ultimatum either to resign or the school wasn't going to open. And so there was nothing more important to me than to see this institution become a part of the American fabric. So I submitted my resignation letter. I waited for the school to open. I tried to re-engage with the mayor, with the chancellor of education, and they were not interested in talking to me. I was contacted by 7 lawyers from across the country who wanted to take my case. And I actually ended up suing the city of New York. And in 2010, I was vindicated by the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. I was granted the opportunity to go back to the school, retroactive pay. But at that point, I said, you know what? The world needs to hear my story. And so I really took the opportunity to speak nationally about the racism and bigotry that exists in our country and making sure that this does not happen to other communities. And so I went into my PhD program. I was interested in actually looking at dual language programming and to see what Arabic studies are there in public education. And a colleague of mine at Columbia University said, why don't you do that? Why don't you look at American Muslim school leaders? See what their experiences are. In New York, I only found 3. And so I really had to cast the net very wide to find people. So in total, I only found 20 across